Okay, so you've started your first clothing company. And basically, you hope that someday you'll be as big as, say, Off-White or Supreme. But you're small potatoes right now. So you know you can't be as big as they are, right? Wrong. Just because you're not as big as they are doesn't mean you can't be perceived to be as big as they are. And I'm going to tell you how to do that. So let's discuss. Next, here on Making the Brand. What's up, everybody? Rob Norman here from Planet Brooklyn Academy, and this is Making the Brand, the series where I give you a little knowledge and insight on how to start a clothing company, and if you already have one, how to improve it. As always, before we begin everything, please hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you will stay up to date with everything we drop when it drops. So perception, that's the key word of today's discussion, how you're perceived. Now, everything we do nowadays is all basically smoke and mirrors. Everybody has a perception of what you are based on social media and everything they see. But everything isn't really what you see nowadays. Some of the biggest companies that you think are huge aren't really that big. And some of the people that you see that appear to be huge are really small, small people, not as affluent as you think they are. So, how do you make your clothing company seem like it's bigger than what it is? Now, I've always been someone that always had big ideas. And as a kid, my parents used to always say this saying to me. They used to say, I have champagne taste with bare money, which basically means that I always had these grandiose ideas, but never had money to do any of it, at least at the time. But I took that saying and kind of flipped it on its head because I said, well, if I have champagne taste with beer money, what if I put that beer in the champagne bottle? That bottle still looks expensive, although what's in it isn't. And that's the concept I am presenting to you guys today. Because you may have grandiose ideas of someday being big, but you're not that big right now. Why can't you take what you're doing right now and put it inside the packaging of something larger? And I'm going to tell you how to do that. First off, let's just talk about your website. When you create your website represents who you are and what your brand is about. So when you're creating it, your website shouldn't be over gaudy or anything like that. You should really take cues from those brands that you like and admire. Look at those big brands. Look how Off-White does their site. Look at how Supreme does their sites. Look at how the Hundreds design their sites. Look at that and take cues from that and figure out how to design your site. Make your site clean, make it work, make it look similar to theirs, but yet telling your story. Now, another thing, most companies nowadays use Shopify or some other web hosting site similar to Shopify. Now, the first thing is, when you use a Shopify site, as I said, most of us do, there's one thing that big brands do that I see a lot of small brands don't do. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of the site, you'll normally see at the bottom, it'll say powered by. Most smaller brands never change that. So normally it says powered by Shopify. And that's one thing you don't want your site to say, especially if you're trying to look like the big boys. Because even though the big boys may use Shopify, their site never says powered by Shopify, and neither should yours. That's a small detail that is very important. Now granted, again, everyone may use it, but it's one of those double-edged things that we all know everybody uses it, but we don't want everybody to know that we use it. So get rid of the Shopify thing. Now, also, when you're creating your site, as I said, a lot of big brands use Shopify. But the difference between you and them is that a lot of times smaller brands just tend to go with the basic templates that are given to you on Shopify. To build a better site, you have to go beyond those basic templates. And you can easily do that by purchasing another template that's outside of Shopify, but works within Shopify's system. So you can Google, Shopify templates and find ones that are better looking and work better for you. Now, they can range from anywhere from $60 to $300. Now, you don't need to spend $300 on a template because those are very intricate and it does a lot more than what you probably need for your site to do at the time. But you can get a $60 one that looks really good. It's streamlined, it's clean, and it does a little bit more. It may be able to show video. It may have extra sections to do very cool things with your individual products. Look at those. Once you have that, again, implement that. Don't just go with the basic out-of-the-box template that Shopify gives you, because again, you want to look like the big boys. You want people to perceive you to be like the big boys. Well, you have to do big boy things on a moderate, budget. And again, $60 isn't that much to pay for a template that you're going to run for maybe a year and a half. So make sure you look at that. Now, the next thing is looking at your imagery on your website. Make sure your imagery looks good. When you're doing photo shoots, you should have good quality images. Now, when you're shooting for product, if you can't shoot it, find someone else who can shoot it. If you know someone who can shoot it but doesn't have a camera, use your phone. All iPhones and Android phones today have amazing cameras on them. You can shoot some amazing stuff on it. So you don't have to go get someone with, a $5,000 camera to shoot it. Give someone your camera, someone your phone, and let them shoot it for you if you can't do it. If you can't shoot it, the next option is something I think you should really consider. Now, there is a site, and we're not sponsored by them or anything, but I just think it's a great resource for you guys to check out. There's a site called placeit.com. So Placeit, basically what it allows you to do is search their database, and you can find people from all different backgrounds, men, women, children. And basically, in the photographs that you find, you can basically put your graphics on the t-shirt on the image of the person in the image wearing. So you can add your graphics, and it looks like it's been screen printed or embroidered on that t-shirt that they're wearing or shirt or anything like that. And then you can download it and use it for your site. Now, you do have to pay a little something for it. It's not much, but this is a way to get good images and get your graphics on it and make it look professional. So if you can't shoot your own images or you can't find somebody else to do it, Placeit is a good option for you guys to look at. And they also do video. So I really recommend you guys checking out the site and checking out what they do. But here's an opportunity to beef up your website. Again, it's about perception. You want people to perceive you to be just as good as these other brands. So again, make sure your photography looks good. Now, if you do not want to go the route of having someone in your garments and you can't shoot it, you can always go the route of having a template. So you can always get these, blank t-shirt templates or shirt templates, which are silhouette templates that can be altered in Photoshop or Illustrator, and you can put your garments on those. Now, you can download packets for those, and they range anywhere from $5 to $50 for them. And you get a whole range where you can get pants, tops, socks, anything you can get. So you can use that. Just the idea of having a consistency on your page. You want this continuity with your images, so everything looks good. You shouldn't have one image where it looks like you shot it, in your bathroom, and then on another one you got someone outside wearing it. There should be a continuity. Again, look at the other brands. Look at how they show their images. And if you can do something similar, that'd be great. But again, you want something clean. You want your site to look clean. You want people able to navigate through it with no problem. So make sure you make all that look great. And again, don't forget to change that powered by at the bottom. Make sure it says powered by your company or some other name, but make sure it doesn't say powered by your web hosting company. Now, moving on from that, other big thing is your social media. When you're on Instagram, what you need to make sure also is that your Instagram has a good story. It's basically telling the story of your brand. You should not have images of, product on one photo, and then the next one is you with your dog, and then another one is picture of food, and then the next one is a photo shoot that you did. Like, continuity is key. You need to tell a story with your Instagram. Again, you also don't want to be constantly advertising. You don't want to have image after image saying, hey, buy this and this is what's new. You don't want to do that because people also get tired of that. They want to see a story. Now, the bigger guys, what they'll do with their stories is they may have tons of photo shoots and they're just posting images of it, and they're not advertising anything, but they're just showing the images. Now, if you can't shoot anything, maybe you want to just bring back images that are related back to what your brand is about. Put those in there. Keep that continuity. Again, telling the story. Make sure all the images are fun and all are related. Here's a great idea. Maybe take all your images and make them all black and white on your Instagram. So, and with good contrast and everything. Now, for each post, you can add multiple photos in that post. So maybe when you post that first black and white, the next image when they slide across is the same image in color. So at least they know what it looks like in color, but the initial of it is in black and white. So when someone goes to your Instagram page, they see this beautiful black and white contrasting images. This looks professional. Again, you don't have these wild images and some in color and then this is something different. There's this continuity in it. So if you do something like that, again, people look at that and really feel like, whoa, okay, I can see what's going on here. This is a pretty upscale brand. Now, let's come out of virtual reality and let's go about the real world. Now, inside the real world is just as important as whatever you do on your social media and your website. What you want to do now is that when you're in the real world, you have to carry that same image over. I've seen plenty of times when small brands do trade shows, and you can tell that they're new to this because when they're at the trade show, they'll have their table set up, their clothes on a rack, the booth is just kind of plain, and clothes aren't even in any particular order. They're kind of just like, okay, this is men's and this is women's over here. They're not maybe a color coordination going in. You need to make people believe that you've been in this game for a long time. And it's simple things that can help you do this. I'll tell you a perfect story. So when I first started my business, when I first came into the game of fashion, and my former business partner and I were doing this, the first thing we did was we got a voicemail service to basically take any calls that came in. And what we did was we had a friend of ours who was from London. We had her record the message on the machine. So whenever anybody called, the first thing they heard was this London accent from this woman on there, and it piqued their interest. They started wondering wow, who's these guys? They've got this, this British woman on here leaving a message. First thing people perceived is that British accent, international, and now they want to know who we were. So we started getting a lot of calls from people wanting to meet with us and have sit downs with us, which was great because when we met with them, we just told them oh, it's a friend of ours who works with us and she did the message on the machine. But it was the perception. They thought that we were this international brand and people wanted to take orders from us. Now, the other thing we also used to do is that we used to do fashion shows. We did fashion shows with some really big brands. But when we rolled in, we made sure we had our rolling racks with us. We had all our stuff organized, perfectly laid out. And these other brands would see us and look at us and saw how we rolled in. We had our jackets with our logo on it. We looked professional. People wanted to know who we were. Other brands started coming to our racks, looking at what was in our racks because they had never seen us before, never heard of us, but suddenly we looked very professional. Everything was looking tight. And when we packed up and rolled out of everything, we rolled out the same way. And people were wondering who we were. Again, perception. They asked for a business card. I would give them a business card, sometimes just a black business card. Well, a good quality, stiff card, black, both sides. And then at the bottom, it'll just have a telephone number. And I'll just give them that. So the mystery of who we were, all the stuff we're doing, the voicemails, all this stuff, people were very intrigued by us. They thought we were this brand that just somehow went under the radar. And again, it was all about perception. It's about being that bear in a champagne bottle. We had no budget. We were doing all this out of the living room of my house and my business partner's house. Right in the living room. I lived in a studio apartment. And this is how we did it. No one had any idea of what we were doing. They just knew that wherever we rolled up anywhere, it was done professionally. Everything they saw from us was professional. So they just assumed that we were this, decent sized company. It was only two of us doing this. So I say that to tell you guys that the perception of how you do things in the real world will still reflect outside of the virtual world. So what you do on social media, on your websites is one thing, but when you carry yourself outside, if you're going to do fashion shows, make sure that you're organized. Make sure you go in there prepared, knowing what you're going to do. If you're going to do trade shows, set up your trade show booth to look professional. It doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles. Sometimes the simplest way is the best way. Okay, so you can go very neutral with colors and basic items, and a simple plan on the table with clean white walls and white tables does the trick. So think about that. Again, you want people to look at you a certain way. So as you do these things, just make sure that you are always thinking about, would my brand do this? How would my brand go about handling this? and you look at how you can attack that and make it reflect on you. I promise you, if you do these things, you will suddenly see people coming at you thinking that you are very huge, even down to your logo. Sometimes your logo has to be cleaned up. Sometimes you have to make it a little bit better than what it is. You don't want it to look kiddish, or you don't want it to look juvenile. Sometimes you have to clean up your logo. Granted, you may have had a family member do it, or you may have had, a friend do it. Sometimes you have to pay a little extra to get a better logo because, again, your logo represents you. You want people to believe in you and your brand, and you want them to believe you are the next Off-White or the next Supreme. So I hope some of that helped. A little insight on how to make your brand look like $1 million brand, even though you don't have $1 million to do it. But again, there are a lot of other ways to go about that, but take that as your basis to really work from. All right, that's it for this episode. Again, remember, we do this every Monday and Wednesday. Any comments you have, please leave that in the comment section below. Until next episode, I'll see you guys later. Peace.